What's up everyone, it's Hallie Grind. Today we're going to be going through, I am building my hunting arrows for this fall, trying something totally different. We're building an arrow that's going to be good for the people out there like me with a short draw. So I have a 26 1/4 draw length, and obviously arrow setups have to be kind of strategic in order to get speed but still enough energy to do the damage that we need to do in the woods. So today we're going to be setting up a brand new set of Easton Sonic 6.0s. So I'm going to take you through the process of building these, my components, why I chose those components. So I'm going to start with taking all of my knocks out because when I cut my arrows, I like to cut based off of carbon to carbon. The thing about these Eastons is the knocks have a pretty snug fit. So as you see, I'm using pliers, but you want to be careful not to damage those knocks when you're taking them out of the arrow. Alright, so I have my knocks taken out of my arrows. I'm going to go through and cut these. So I'm using the Last Chance Revolution saw. So the nice thing about this saw is back here behind it, it has a measuring tape. I have it set to just about over 26 inches where I want my arrows to be cut. The nice thing about this saw is I'm a clean freak, so it has this water trough that when I turn the saw on, I have my shop vac underneath, and it actually sucks up all the carbon dust so that it's not spraying that throughout the basement. So here we go. Put my arrow on, turn the saw and the shop vac on, and we're gonna start cutting. Alright, so now that I have cut all of my arrows, I'm going to square off both ends. So basically that just makes sure that what I've cut now is still an even end to each side of the arrow for my points, my inserts, and then also my knocks. So another added feature of this saw is it has a built-in square, so instead of having to have a separate part, I can just do it here on the saw itself. Okay, so now that my arrows are all cut and squared up, I am using AAE Max Clean Wipes to wipe down the arrow shaft, ensure that all dust, oils, carbon are wiped off of them. So I'm going to take a wipe down the top side of my arrow because I am going to wrap them here in a minute with boning 5.5 inch size small white wraps. We like to clean our arrows because we don't realize how much coming from the factory, but in the process of cutting and squaring, in the process of just your hands and grimy touching. So you see there, yeah, that's all the stuff that was on the shaft of the arrow that we don't want on there because that hinders whether you're using wraps or not, or you're just fletching on the bare shaft itself. Get myself situated here. Alright, so now that my arrows are cut, squared, and cleaned and prepped, I'm going to put my wraps on. So I like to use a softer like mouse pad material to set my wrap on because it helps me get a better angle, and being that it's a softer surface helps me roll the wrap on the arrow and be able to do it straight without the arrow just sliding all over a flat surface. So I want to make sure that my arrow is right up against the end of the wrap. I'm going to push down and I'm just going to roll. Once I'm rolled, I'm going to go over it, make sure it is seated and flat and there's no air bubbles in it. And I have my wrap on. right, so now that I have a couple arrows wrapped, I'm gonna go ahead and put my nocks back in. I'm a pretty meticulous person, and so for the sake of everything looking the same and being aesthetic, I'm shooting the Easton 6mm H knock, and on this knock it has the letter H, which I am going to put on the top side. So I want the top side to be the opposite of where that crease of the wrap comes together. Alright, so now we are like halfway through the process here. I have my wraps and my nocks on, so I'm going to come over to my fletching jig. I am using the new OMP Phoenix fletching jig with Fletch Pro 2.5 inch veins. These are a different vein than I've ever used on my hunting arrows, and the reason I wanted to try these out is because they're a little bit more of a lower profile, softer vein. So the point of that was to try to see if maybe potentially it could get a little more speed out of them with having still enough vein to steer my broadhead, and see if they're a bit quieter than what I was shooting before. So I'm going to come over here, I'm going to take my clamp off. I'm going to line the knock up in my fletching jig. So I'm starting with the crease of my wrap on the arrow pointing downwards. So my arrow's seated in, everything's locked in. I'm going to take a vein, I'm going to set it on my clamp. I am using the AAE Quick Bond Vein Primer. I'm going to do one quick swipe down the vein in order to prime the vein for the glue that I'm using, which is Easton Quick Bond Arrow Vein Adhesive. So now my vein is primed, in the clamp, lined up. I'm going to go through, I like to do 6 or 7 tiny little drops of glue along the vein. And then I'm going to take the point of my glue and just kind of lightly run that down to smear it all over the vein. I am going to clamp this on, make sure that my clamp is seated all the way down against the base of the jig, and lightly push down on the arrow. And then while I'm doing this, I'm pretty meticulous about the look, so I'm going to, while it's in the clamp, wipe off the glue. Okay, so now I have one vein done, so I'm going to clean off my clamp, make sure there's no glue residue. I'm going to clean off my glue. I'm going to grab my next vein. Again, I'm putting it in my clamp, make sure it's lining up with the line that I have it set to. I'm going to take my primer pen. I'm going to do one quick swipe down the vein. Let that dry a little bit. Then I'm taking my glue. And I am doing 6 or 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 6 or 7 small drops of glue that then I'm going to take the point of my glue bottle and run that down the arrow just to make sure that glue spreads all over the vein. Run it down my arrow. I'm going to run those glue beads down the vein itself. Make sure all the glue is spread. Put my clamp on and lightly push down. Alright, so we have our first arrow done here. Looks pretty decent. Now we're going to go on and finish the rest of them. are all fletched up and ready to go. So now, no, scratch that. They're not ready to go. That's lying. Okay, we are back. We have all of the arrows fletched up. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my saw. I'm going to go through my arrow with the wire brush and the brush mop to get all the excess carbon dust off, so that when I go to glue in my inserts, that glue can fully adhere to the inside of the arrow. I am going to run just the standard 6mm inserts. I think they're 18 grains. So I'm just gonna put a little layer of glue over that, push my insert in, wipe off the excess glue. Again, I'm going through with the wire brush, the brush mop. So I have that arrow cleaned out. I'm taking the Easton Quick Bond insert adhesive. I'm just putting a layer around the insert. Go to my paper towel, push that insert in, wipe off my excess glue. So now I'm going to finish up the rest of these, putting inserts in them, and then we will weigh them, put my field points in, and then we'll go out with my bow and shoot a few through the chronograph. Okay, so glued in my inserts, I screwed in some Easton match grade 100 grain field points. So now I'm going to use my last chance scale. I'm going to see how much these arrows weigh. And they're coming in at 325.8, so I'll weigh the rest of them. 326. So they're within like 1 grain of one another, which is okay. That variance probably comes from maybe a little more glue on the points, but being within 1 grain of one another will be fine. So let's head outside and shoot it through the chronograph. Okay, all right, so now we're outside. I have my bow in hand. I'm shooting the Matthews image. My draw length's just a little over 26. I'm shooting 50-pound mods at 85% lit off. I have my newly built Easton Sonic 6.0s and a 500 spine. As you guys saw, we just weighed them. They're coming in at around 325, 326, so we're gonna shoot it through the chrono. So we are using the new Garmin chronograph, which works based off of, this is optional, but you can put in the weight of your arrow, and then it gives you, you'll shoot 3 arrows over it, and then after the end of the 3 arrows, it gives you the average. So we just shot a handful of arrows through the chrono, and my average speed is coming in at 252, which I'm not overly concerned about speed. Me being that I have a shorter draw length and lighter poundage, that's just the nature of it. You can't have all the things. You know, when I first started 10 years ago, I was shooting 35 pounds. I don't think I worried about that arrow setup at all, or ever shot it through the chronograph, and had a pass through on the very first deer I ever shot. So at the end of the day, as long as you have an arrow setup, for you kiddos or ladies or even men with shorter draw lengths, at the end of the day, you just kind of have to build up an arrow that works, with a broadhead that works, and speed, kinetic energy, all those things that are hot topics this year is not always as critical as having a setup that works for you. All right, everyone, thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you found it interesting, helpful. If you did, give it a like and subscribe to this channel for more content. We will be back with paper tuning the arrows we built today, field testing the setup, and ensuring that the bow is ready to rock and roll this hunting season. Thank you again for watching.